Good evening and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, which is being held pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Law C-231, Laws of New Jersey, dated 1975. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the local source as well as the Star Ledger, the newspapers of record. A notice has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. Roll call, Mr. Mongoose.
Mr. DiGiovanni is absent, Mr. Howe is absent, and Mr. Wiley is absent. Miss Alexander,
Here.
Miss Martins,
Here.
Mr. Bentavegana,
Here.
Miss Scott,
Here.
Mr. McNeil,
Here.
and Mr. Champy.
Here. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. Mr.
That's it.
Mr. Manguso, are there any communications?
I do not have any communications, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none, our first order of business this evening is calendar number 3399, Jaeger Lumber, 2322 Morris Avenue, Block 3915, Lot 17.01. Construct 2 storage buildings and 1 roof structure, and it will be carried for the resolution of approval. We've all had a chance to read the resolution. Are there any board members who would like to comment or make changes or modifications to the resolution at this time? Hearing none, may I have a motion for the approval of the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board adopt the resolution as read and modified as accurately memorializing the previous findings of this board.
McNeil, second.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil. Roll call.
Miss Alexander,
Yes.
Miss Martins,
Yes.
Mr. Bentavegana,
Yes.
Miss Scott,
Yes.
Mr. McNeil,
Yes.
and Mr. Champy.
Yes. Our next order of business is calendar number 3401, RBM Realty Incorporated, located at 735 Rowway Avenue, Block 3302, Lot 1, and it will be for the addition to an existing warehouse/office/manufacturing structure. Counselor, would you like to proceed?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Stephen H. Merman. I am of counsel at the Hale offices of the law firm of Javerbaum Wargaft, and I stopped there because I don't remember all the names of the rest of the partners yet, but we'll get there. Tonight we have before you a rather simple application. It's a technical use variance in that the manufacturing uses that are in the building had previously been approved by way of a use variance. So this board has jurisdiction as a continuation on that. But what we're doing tonight, what we're asking the board to take a look at tonight is not the actual manufacturing use. There's going to be no expansion of that. The expansion is going to be in a small part of the warehouse. We will be seeking a total expansion of 5,812 square feet on this property. Tonight I have 3 witnesses. Actually, I have 4 witnesses tonight to introduce. I have a representative of our client, Jason Schott, here, and he'll discuss the operation itself and give the board a overview and a picture of why Schott Brothers is coming in to expand this warehouse use. I have our architect is here tonight, an engineer, as well as a professional planner. We're going to run through the testimony with regard to this, and I think that under the circumstances, it's a beautiful night out there. I'm going to skip the rest of my summary, and we're going to dive right into the testimony. So as well as a... I thought it was Mr. Pansula, but that's okay.
Didn't say a word yet.
At this time, I'd call Jason Schott.
For the record, the council, board members, I did mark A1, the application with supporting checklist items. A2 is the site plan as proposed by Dynamic Engineering, which consists of 8 pages, as well as a 1-page survey as part of that site plan. A3 is the drainage statement prepared by Dynamic dated April 12th. and A4 is the warehouse expansion plan of James Franco as the architect. So A1 through A4 for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Pansel.
Can the witness hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can I ask you to raise your hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, it is.
Just for the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
My name is Jason Schott, and I am a Chief Operating Officer at Schott NYC, also the parent company Schott Brothers, Inc., and another subsidiary is RBM Holding, which is the real estate company, all under the umbrella of Schott Brothers, Inc.
Thank you.
Mr. Schott, how long has your operation been here in Union Township?
We've been in Union happily for since 2012. The company was founded by my great-grandfather in 1913. My great-grandfather invented the motorcycle jacket, and we've been manufacturing outerwear, mostly jackets, leather, and wool, in the United States since that time in 1913. We've been in Union, like I said, since 2012.
And you were previously before the Board of Adjustment with regard to occupying the building that you're currently in?
Yes, we had to go in front of the zoning board before we moved in for the use, for the same purposes, actually, for a parking variance as well as for the use.
So if you could just give the board an overview of how much of the space within the building is office space versus the warehousing space versus the manufacturing space.
So what we're looking to do at this time is to expand a little bit of our warehouse space. Because we're manufacturing in the United States, the lead times, we have multiple facets of our business. Some of it, we're importing finished goods, some sweaters and sportswear items that we can't manufacture here. And we're also cutting and sewing leather and wool jackets that we manufacture here. Because of the longer lead times in the raw materials, as well as longer lead times from the factories where we're sourcing from overseas, we need to keep larger stock of inventory. And so we would like to, for business purposes, have additional warehouse space so we can store more goods just to further fuel our business.
Do you anticipate there's going to be any addition in the number of employees that are on the site as a result of this expansion?
No, we don't intend to add any additional people for this.
And with regard to your parking requirements, do you feel from an operational standpoint that the number of spaces that are proposed as a result of the modification of the building is going to be sufficient?
We believe it will be sufficient. Frankly speaking, the entire back of our building, we never have any of our employees parking there. They use it for some impromptu Zumba classes and a little bit of kickball during lunch, and that will continue. And you're all welcome to join us. But there's a lot of our employees who carpool, a few take public transportation, and we've never had any problems with parking.
Obviously, we're in a very different time than we were prior to the pandemic, but the parking demand on your lot, did that decrease as a result of the pandemic, or did it remain the same?
It's pretty much remained the same. It hasn't changed too
And
much.
could you just give us an idea how many employees are on site?
We have about 100 to 110 employees on site.
Great. I really have nothing further of Mr. Schott. Obviously, he is here to answer any questions that you have relative to the operation and the underlying reasons why we're seeking this extension.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony that Mr. Schott has given?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schott, quick question. Is this a 24-hour operation, or what's your hours of business over there?
So the factory, the sewing floor is 7 to 3:30. The offices are 8 to 4:30 officially, but there's people there. It's not 24 hours. It's 8 to 6. Thank you.
Are there any board members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Do you have customers come in to purchase goods, or?
We don't have any customers on site. We do have an e-commerce shipping business that we ship out of there. We have a retail store in New York City, LA, and San Francisco, as well as stores, Schott stores in Europe, as well as Japan. but we don't have, there's one day a year where we open up the factory for a factory sale. It's in October this year, but other than that one day a year, that's the only time we have customers in.
Thank you.
Are there any other board members that would like to question Mr. Schott?
Just 2 points of order, Mr. Chairman. The Collier's letter dated July 13th, 2022 will become a part of the record. I know we'll go over with the professionals. And also, to the extent the prior resolution is not modified tonight, it remains in full force and effect. Any other conditions? So just so the board and the public's aware that, as the council pointed out and the witnesses indicated, they were here before for this use. So there are terms and conditions. I don't know if it's part of the packet, but it's on record, and those remain in full force and effect unless changed here tonight. Those 2 things I wanted to make sure we made part of the record.
And we do acknowledge that on behalf of the applicant.
Are there any other board members that would like to question Mr. Schott's testimony? Hearing none, at this time we'll open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to question just the testimony that Mr. Schott has given this evening? Hearing none. Counselor, would you like to proceed?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Schott. You can be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call our architect, James Franco.
Can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Just for the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
My name is James Franco, Franco. Business is J.V. Franco and Associates. We're located in Bridgewater, New Jersey.
Mr. Frank,
Would you like to state your credentials?
Yes, I've been a licensed architect for 35 years, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Graduate of Syracuse University in architecture. I presented before numerous boards. I was involved in the original project back in 2012.
The board will accept his credentials.
thank you. Mr. Franco, could you give us an idea of what your involvement was in this overall project?
We were contacted by the client. They wanted to, as he described, expand their warehouse capabilities. And what we've done is we've created a 5,800 square foot, 58 and 12 square foot addition that's strictly warehouse. The height of the building is the same height as the existing building. We've carried that through. And it's really just racks and storage.
Can we pull up the architecturals?
Oh, do you have them, or? First time I've done it this way.
All right. So if you could you just run us through, Mr. Schott obviously has indicated what the uses are, but if you could run through and show us where the various uses are and where the expansion is proposed.
So presently, office areas to the front portion of the building. We have manufacturing in this portion of the building to the right. The left side of the space is all warehouse, which is just all of this. So we're carrying this through to this area to get additional racks and storage.
The full expansion is in the back area there?
Just in the back of the building.
And could you describe the specifics as to the dimensions of the expansion?
Can't see with the eyes. Can you, if you double?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to do with 2 fingers, or? There you go. Thank you. Okay. So the addition overall is 161 feet by 37 feet 6 inches. It aligns with the side of the building, and the entire addition is out the back of the building. So there's nothing to the side or towards the front.
You've designed this building to, this extension to look as if it was part of the building initially? It's the same?
It's going to match the same
same
materials,
products.
concrete block to be painted to match the existing building. That's correct.
I have nothing further of our architect at this time. I reserve the right to ask additional questions based upon any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Franco's testimony? Hearing none. Are there any members of the public that would like to question Mr. Franco's testimony? Hearing none, Mr. Merman, your next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I would call Sam Wally.
Can I ask the witness to raise her right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I swear.
If you could state and spell your name for the record with your business affiliation.
Sam Wally, last name is W-A-L-I. I work with Dynamic Engineering, located in Chester, New Jersey, and I'm employed as a licensed professional engineer with the firm and have been employed since 2016.
Thank you.
Mr. Wally, would you like to state your credentials?
Yes. As noted previously, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I graduated from NJIT with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, and I've worked on multiple commercial, warehouse, and multifamily residential projects across the state of New Jersey.
The board will accept his credentials.
Thank you. Mr. Wally, if you could you pull up the site plan?
Yes, sir. That's not it.
I think if you look at the ones that are marked dynamic RB.
This is actually going to be the site improvement plan, which is just a renderized version.
That's it. Has this been submitted with the package, or is this a new exhibit?
This is a new exhibit, which we can mark as A5.
That's all right with Mr. Pansula. Can we mark this as A5, this
A5 for the
rendering?
record is what?
The site improvement plan exhibit?
Colorized rendering. Okay, if you'd be so kind as to run the board through the site plan.
Sure. So, as noted previously, we do have the building expansion at the rear of the site. This is a majority of where the site improvements are proposed. Aside from the building expansion, we are also providing restriped spaces along the rear and the front of the site. We are actually proposing a net decrease in 16 parking spaces, which will trigger a parking variance. The 5,812 square foot warehouse expansion is highlighted in dark gray and will increase the total building footprint to 61,865 square feet. I just wanted to note that the entirety of the building expansion will be contained within the limits of the existing impervious coverage. And so there's going to be no increase in impervious coverage as a result of this site improvement. And in addition, we are also bringing the site into compliance with the ADA guidelines. Currently, there are lacking ADA spaces, so additional spaces have been provided to comply with the national code. Furthermore, we provide 9 foot wide by 20 foot long spaces to comply with the Township of Union parking standards. In addition to angled parking spaces at the rear due to the limited driveway circulation space from the expanded building. As such, we will be confined to one-way circulation for the 60-degree and 45-degree angled parking, which will entail the 18.3 feet, as well as the 17.8-foot drive aisles, which are also compliant with Township Code. Under proposed conditions, the site is generally very flat, similar to existing conditions. The project does not disturb more than an acre of land or increase impervious coverage, and therefore does not trigger state stormwater regulations and is not classified as a major development. Likewise, the project is exempt from runoff quantity, water quality, and groundwater recharge standards. I also wanted to emphasize again that the existing grading and drainage patterns will remain the same under proposed conditions, and the existing conditions, the stormwater generated from the rear of the site actually sheet flows overland to the existing drainage ditch just beyond the southern property line, and as such, the roof runoff collected from the downspouts will actually maintain the existing condition and continue to drain to the drainage stream at the rear of the site. I also wanted to note that this is actually an improvement to the existing condition, as we're proposing more clean runoff from the roof area as opposed to the existing motor vehicle rated surface that's currently there today.
So on the site plan, if you could just make it a little bit larger, thank you. Have you run the templates on this site plan relative to fire trucks being able to circulate the building?
Yes, we did, and that's actually included as a part of the site plan submission package. We actually ran the Union Township fire truck and confirmed that there were no issues with circulation.
And could you just show us where the 16 spots were taken from in order to do this expansion?
Sure. So the 16 spots were actually removed from the building expansion at the southern portion of the property. This was actually it's currently all existing parking, which again will be eliminated due to the expanded building, which will also result in the one-way circulation due to the narrowed drive aisle.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions of Mr. Wally.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony Mr. Wally has given? Hearing none. Are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony Mr. Wally has given? Hearing none. Mr. Merman, your next witness.
Thank you very much. This time I call Alexander Doherty. Mr. Doherty's going to carry the load now. All right.
Mr. Doherty, can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you can provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, yes,
If
we
you
do.
could just state and spell your name for the record with your business affiliation.
Alexander Dougherty, last name is Dougherty, professional planner at 54 Main Street, Chatham.
Thank you.
Would you like to state your credentials?
I'm
for
a
the board?
licensed professional planner, PP, AICP. My licenses are both good and current standing. Education's at a Rutgers Blaustein, Master's in City Regional Planning, and I testify in this capacity on a weekly basis.
The board will accept his credentials.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Doherty, you've had an opportunity to examine the site.
Yes, I have.
You've examined the master plan.
Yes, I have.
And any other documents specifically that you've looked at in preparation for your
Our
testimony?
reports and from Colliers and the current conditions as well as proposed conditions.
Would you please run the board through the existing variances and the new proposed variances that we're seeking tonight?
Certainly. As you stated, we do have existing variances here. These variances consist of relief for maximum impervious coverage. Currently, as the site exists, we're at 89%. Your zone requires it to be at 80. This variance is not changing, as the engineer pointed out. This addition being proposed is already on impervious coverage, and one of these benefits with this addition is actually clean water runoff coming from the gutters versus the asphalt or the parking and so forth. We also have a C relief for a two-way driveway width in the southwest corner at 21.2 feet versus the 24 feet, which is current. As the engineer stated, Site circulation will function safely and efficiently, and this is a pre-existing condition. We have relief for minimum distance of parking to the structure at 0 feet versus the ordinance requiring it to be at 10. We have relief for parking setback from the property line at 1 to 9 inches, 1 feet to 9 inches versus the 10-foot requirement. Again, this is existing. We have relief for parking in the front yard. Again, this is existing condition. And as mentioned prior, we have a new variance for parking where we're at 105 versus 116. So with that, the new variance we're seeking is actually a small reduction in the parking as well as the D2 for the expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use.
This board is aware that the planning board is looking at some ordinance amendments with regard to parking. Would that ordinance amendment affect the parking requirement on this property?
I think it would bring it more into compliance than what's currently there, and as my exhibits will show, in the back, there is no parking, actually, that's been manifested. We have an abundance of parking for this use.
Well, why don't we bring up those photographs for the board? Mr. Doherty's been out at the site, taking some photographs, and we're going to introduce them tonight. Mr. Pansula, these were not previously submitted, and I ask you to mark them accordingly.
Yes, I did to get a copy, and the board has received a copy. It's marked A6 for the record, the 11-page planner's exhibit.
So it consists of 11 pages. Slide 1, outlined in red, is the site in question. Is it zoomed in? Slide 2 is your zone map. Outlined in red is the zone, the IO 40 zone. What's important to note is right behind it is the industrial zone. This slide here is an existing land use map. Again, purple being industrial. The green arrow kind of shows where we're at here from a land use perspective, again, in the industrial land use category. What this slide shows is your future master plan projected zoning use. The green arrow here shows a commercial industrial use. Again, kind of fitting that narrative here with the industrial selling the leather garments and textiles that are being made there. Again, to emphasize this is not happening on site, but this is kind of that narrative here. This slide here, as photos were taken on the 21st, is a drone perspective, really looking at the site off a Rawway. As we can see, it's fairly large. Again, there's the vehicles parking in the front. Again, 0 setback from the structure itself.
Can I stop you right here? Can you tell us what time of day you took that photo?
Time of day, I would say about 1:30?
Midday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So slide 2 is more kind of spinning the drone counterclockwise going around the site. Is again of the site. It's fairly large. As we can see, the parking arrangement and the structure. I do want to flip back. From the front, the red building facade really entails more of that office use we have. And as we can see, the white in the back is really that warehouse manufacturing taking place in-house. Again,
Could
spinning.
you stop there for a minute? There's a buffer along the backside of
Yes,
this property?
we'll see more of that. It's fairly large, nice road trees, great canopy. And this is more of that back area. Right in this area, right around here, is, oh, I lost it. I think we jumped the slide. This area here is really where that expansion is taking place, as indicated on the architectural and engineering. What's important to note is there's no vehicles back here from a parking standpoint. Again, to emphasize where this addition is taking place, the rear of the structure, we see more of that canopy, just kind of spinning it around, more just images of that proposed space, more of that width in the back, if you will, where that addition would take place. As we can see, the very lush canopy from a buffer standpoint, and more of the same photos kind of taken from a different angle. So with that, really just kind of floats you around the site and really shows you what's happening here and where that addition is. So to kind of summarize here, the site is one tax lot. We're at block 3302 lot 1. It's approximately 143,965 square feet. This is about 3.3 acres, substantially larger than the 40,000 square foot requirement, approximately 3.5 times larger. As you see, it's developed as a single-use textile tenant, if you will, under the Shop Brothers name. The tenant itself operates its business, and it's entirely under one roof, as we see here. This site is really comprised of 3 critical operational components. We have the office, we have the warehousing, and we have manufacturing of the textile, leather garments, and clothing. The area, it abuts similar industry-type uses. Again, we're abutting the industrial zone to the rear. The plan, as we've heard, is to construct the 5,812 square foot warehouse component off the back. Again, when we look at the zone, we are in the I-040 industrial office district. What I'd like to point out for the board, this zone consists of a range of 13 general themes as permitted uses. Out of those 13, I do want to point out that we have several that actually allow manufacturing to take place in-house. Number 2 on that list, computer and office equipment manufacturing and assembly. Number 3, electrical equipment and components manufacturing and assembly. Number 4 is laboratory apparatuses. Number 5 is surgical, medical, and dental instruments, supplies manufacturing. 6, we have photographic equipment manufacturing, and 11, pharmaceutical research, development, and manufacturing. So the fact that we're here for D2, I don't believe is that far of a departure of what the zone allows. We do have manufacturing taking in place, and that is what's constituting the D2 expansion here. I do want to point out Article 9 when we talk about the industrial district limitations under Section 170-901 manufacturing process. It basically allows manufacturing, it calls it out, in the industrial district. When I look at Article 15, which is the IO district at Section 170-1501, and the purpose of this district, it expressly calls out the purpose of this article is to permit the development of offices, corporate training centers, and related corporate office service facilities within the industrial office zone, including the redevelopment of industrial uses to permit office uses. So we kind of have this industrial that allows manufacturing. We have some that actually have in-house manufacturing. Again, it's really exercises to demonstrate we are not too far off the zone intent. So for that relief, we are here for the technical D2 relief to alter a pre-existing non-conforming use within the IO 40 zone. Again, this addition is for a permitted use warehouse. So with that being said, we've heard the pre-existing variances. We are here as well for the parking of 105 versus the 116. As the site shows and as testified, we have parking that meets actual demand. And as you can see at the site here, there is no parking taking place in the rear where this addition is being proposed. So when we look at the positive criteria here for this application, the project as a whole results in site betterment visually and functionally. Visually, nothing changes with the public realm in that image. We don't have construction taking place in the front. From the public's perspective driving down Broadway, nothing is happening here at the site. And I think we can certainly say visually that's a good thing. Functionally, the enhanced layout will result in betterment for site organization, flow, quality of product, and the production for the community and the consumer base. Again, everything is handled in-house and maintained under one roof, which is good quality control. As we've heard before you, with the pandemic and with logistics, having that extra store space, actually benefits this great rateable base here. When I look at your master plan, again, on page 58, promoting commercial and other non-residential development requires that the township's land use regulations are responsive and flexible to the changing demands. Again, I think that's what we have here. We're asking for some minor relief. Again, we have some changing demands here that are taking place where we need a little bit of additional warehousing. When we look at the negative criteria, all the relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public or impairment to the zone. Expert witness has sworn under oath that the site functions safely, particularly with the fire, which I think is important when we talk about garments being stored as a warehouse. The textile facility is compatible with the character of the area and will improve the site production for future retail as well as that consumer base. The only reason for relief is truly technical, as the master plan envisions this area as a commercial industrial. The zone does indeed allow for manufacturing to some degree, and again, I think we really do meet that intent here. The industrial manufacturing as well as offices can coexist without interfering with each other in any adverse manner that would be of a public detriment at large. When we look at the C relief here, we have those that classified under C1, which are pre-existing conditions, and that is a C2. To pass this test, either the C1 or the C2 need to be met, not both. So with that being said, I believe, if we look at this addition here, as stated before you, we do provide for better water runoff. The site is already impervious. We are not creating any more impervious coverage. We are within that setback. We do, as we see on the screen here, a large healthy canopy for a buffer zone. We are adding ADA parking, as well as the land use, for the parking this year is existing therein. And I believe relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the area of the zone plan. These structures to expand upon. This was permitted back in 2012, this use. Again, this is more technical. And with that being said, I'll kind of wrap it up. I believe this application as a whole presents little to no detriment to the community at large, and relief can be granted and approval is warranted.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony that Mr. Doherty has given? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony that Mr. Doherty has given this evening? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to comment or express their opinions on this application?
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, I'd like to call Mr. Wally back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One item that I missed in his testimony.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Wally, you're still under oath. Mr. Wally, you had an opportunity to review the technical comments that were provided by Colliers in the letter of July 13th, were you not?
That was correct.
And you had an opportunity to discuss those comments with Representative Colliers?
That is correct. We actually spoke to Mr. William Hoover earlier today, and we actually ran through each individual comment and confirmed that we can comply and satisfy each and every single comment.
All right. There's just one item that we did not touch on, and it's in the Colliers report, so I don't want the board to think that we're not being fully transparent. There is a deed restriction on the property relative to NJDEP, is that correct?
That is correct.
Could you please explain to the board what the nature of that deed restriction is?
That deed restriction is actually, it actually comes into play from that drainage ditch at the back of the site. We discussed the additional permitting required with First Environmental, the environmental consultant that we have as part of this project, and we confirmed with them that there are no additional NJDEP permits required as part of this application.
And that would be an LSRP?
That would be an SRP, correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Wally's additional testimony? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the additional testimony that Mr. Wally has given? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to express their opinion or comment on this application? Hearing none. Mr. Merman, would you like to sum up?
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman. I believe that we are presenting to the board an opportunity to expand a very, I think it's a wonderful organization. I take the opportunity whenever I get involved with an applicant to find out a little bit about their history and background. And as I said to Mr. Schott when I spoke to him for the first time, fascinated by the story. And I'm glad to see that they've been able to thrive here in Union. One of the things that we know is that Union is very friendly to business and economic growth. While this is a small expansion, it is one that is absolutely necessary for the continued growth of this particular company. And now we're talking about a company, we don't have a lot of those these days that are over 100 years old. So we believe that we've presented sufficient testimony on both the positive and negative criteria for the board. We believe this is a great project, and we'd ask the board to approve the project. Mr. Chairman, I do note, and being a former board attorney myself, something that I'm always cognizant of, recognizing that we only have 6 members and that the board has to have an affirmative vote of 5. I'd like to reserve whether or not we're going to ask the board to vote tonight after board members have had an opportunity to review and perhaps give us their insight into the application.
Mr. Pansula, can we conference this?
Absolutely, yeah, that's perfectly permissible. You have less than the qualified members. The applicant has the right to have a full complement of members, but it's perfectly procedurally acceptable to have the board offer its comments about what it heard tonight prior to vote.
All right, then at this time, we will conference this. Ms. Martins, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the testimony provided this evening, the increase in warehouse space is beneficial to the growth of this business and an impact to the site. These variants are not a detriment to the public, so I will be voting yes to grant the variances.
Ms. Scott?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I think all the professionals that came up did an excellent job in describing what the site is and what's currently on the site and what the expansion would be, and I don't see any detriment either to the community, and so I would be voting yes on this.
Ms. Alexander?
I agree with my colleagues, and after Jason told us about his father starting a business in 1913, and they're willing to come to Union and stay in Union, I agree with the expansion, and like, is it Wally or Alexander said, no detriment to the public, no detriment to the community. I will be voting yes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Based on the testimony given, I think this is a good, clean application. I see no negative impact to the community, and there's no change in the cosmetic in the front of the building, so I'm going to be voting yes tonight.
And Mr. McNeil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also agree with my colleagues. I really don't see any adverse impacts that would be created by the approval of this application, and I too intend to vote yes.
As for myself, I see no problem with this application. The testimony presented this evening justified both the positive and negative criteria associated with the application. These improvements will not affect the neighbors. And I just want to say, I remember Mr. Schott when he came here in 2012, and I'm glad to see that your business is flourishing, and anything that Union can do in today's economic environment to improve that is a plus. So I too will vote yes for this application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. At this time, I waive my client's right to have a full complement of the board, and we'd ask that the matter proceed to a vote.
Can I have a motion for the approval of the application?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application, and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Manguso.
Mr. Bentavegana?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
And Mr. Champy?
Yes.
Thank you very much. A pleasure as always. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
August 24th is the next meeting. We'll have the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Pansu.
If the engineer also, if you happen to have a hard copy of A5, the colorized portion, that would be great so we can mark it.
Mr. Chairman, there being no further business coming before this board this evening, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
So moved.